Things are changing fast for chief procurement officers right now, even the name. Some companies are thinking about changing it to chief relationship officer. Why? Because the job is all about dealing with the relationship between what a business needs and the external companies who supply those needs. Procurement is about ensuring your organization has the right skills and capabilities to deal with ongoing changing business needs in business, in the market, and technology. That's vital when you're expected to procure services, particularly for a new operating model that's focused on injecting new energy into existing markets or growing into new markets. Procurement has always been vital to that. But there's an increasing focus on how professionals actually achieve their objectives. All the old key performance indicators are, well, old. There are new ones that have to be understood, applied, and used constructively to take the business forward. You have to think about the way you made agreements in the past. Are they right for the new world? Should you be looking at service-level objectives instead? The way contracts are negotiated is changing. Procurement specialists are now much more focused on writing guaranteed cost savings into contracts to keep up with the pressure from the business to control and cut costs. You also need to think about where the control is. It can slip from you to the vendor. Then their business objectives can override yours. That can't be allowed to happen. A large car hire business with a global reach took a long, hard look at its IT infrastructure and applications not so long ago and found that they weren't flexible enough to enable them to get into new markets and make the most of new opportunities, let alone serve their existing customer base. What had happened was that an array of legacy systems had clogged up the company, and the vendors of those systems actually had power over the company. So it was decided to re-engineer them all into a service-orientated set of applications. What the CPOs team did was to focus on actually delivering the ability to transform the business, its customer data. The skills and technology were brought in to transform a rigid, hierarchical approach to databases to a relational one. Strict contracts gave the company total ownership and control over the data, as well as real-time access. Costs were cut, and the data's value as an asset increased tremendously. That's a good example of how procurement professionals have to develop new skills and capabilities so that they can map the service delivery for new operating models to the new processes, taking into account handoffs and possible risks, of course. It's clear that professionals should be focusing on integrating traditional methods of procurement with today's new operating models. One CPO in a large chemical company had to make hard choices when the board decided to revamp its global supply chain. Rather than procure a range of different specialists and technologies and then knit them together, the CPO contracted with one highly experienced specialist to deploy sophisticated mathematical models that would take a range of issues into account, from safety and security to sustainability. The CPO didn't have to be an expert in those models, only to understand their objectives, provide the contractual framework that guaranteed success at the right price, and then manage the relationship with the supplier to ensure that what was promised got done. That's strategic decision-making. Take a global provider to the cellular and broadband communications market, for instance. The CPO's team decided that to stay at the leading edge of its market, the company needed to develop a fixed station for communicating with phones. But developing it internally would slow the company down. So they brought in a specialist team, created a demanding contract in terms of cost, timeframes, and quality, and kept a close eye on the project. Product development lead time was cut considerably, and the company is now ready to compete in the 4G market. CPOs that buy the solution best suited for their business and get it working before their competitors do will deliver growth. Let's face it, procurement has become a high-pressure profession. You have to stay true to your business objectives and ensure that your priorities are paramount rather than those of any of your vendors. CPOs are increasingly insisting on contracts that specify levels of cost savings, or even transferring the ownership of risk by getting the partner company to underwrite it themselves. And it's even better if your partner has greater clout when it comes to negotiating third-party costs. It all helps.